let's start at the beginning. It's very interesting how you got into pro wrestling. And, there's a lot of people out there that kind of dream about, they see it on TV and they're like, well, how do I sneak my way into the industry? And it's a fascinating tale how you managed to work your way in. How did you do it?
It was, I call it the improbable, impossible journey. I shouldn't have been there. I got lucky, a combination of luck and hard work. And I'm not exactly sure. I was talking to an old friend, Joe Gomez, yesterday, who read the book. He used to wrestle WCW as the Desperado, Joe Gomez. And we were talking about that, how back in 1990, you just didn't go backstage at a WCW show if you weren't a wrestler. I got a pinky toe in the door, and I did the best I could to keep it going. And unfortunately for me, I did, but it shouldn't have happened. It's a crazy tale, which is one of the reasons why, Guy Evans wanted to make this. We're going to originally have a scrapbook, but wanted to make it an autobiography about my life, my journey, because it is a crazy journey. And I don't know what to say. I mean, I just got a lucky break and I made it happen, but it shouldn't have happened.
101.5 FM KDAWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show.
The Mark Hoke Show.
Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And let's return to the Mark Hoke Show. Wait, that's my show, I guess.
That is your show.
I'm in charge. So I guess I kind of have to do this thing, huh? Come on, Reuben.
You're the captain now.
All right. I'm just having fun, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Top rated show here, live show on KDAWN. I can't say top rated because Hannity kind of takes that away from me. But otherwise, we're all good. What am I going to do? But having a blast here, the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment, and very happy to be on the phone with David Penzer, who's got his book Sitting Ringside Volume 1, and it is a very unique perspective on pro wrestling from, of course, obviously did the announcing for WCW and Impact as well, and other jobs with WCW as along the way. And very happy to have David on the show. David, thank you for being with us. Certainly appreciate it.
Sure, man. Hey, love him or hate him, it's hard to compete with Sean Hannity.
It is. It's a little tough. But yeah. But
you do okay.
I'm better looking than Sean, but he'd probably fight me on that. Now, Kevin Sullivan wrote the foreword in your book, and I really think that Kevin is a guy that just does not get the credit in the history of pro wrestling that he should. I mean, I remember the days when I first started picking up pro wrestling magazines and seeing pictures of Kevin down in Florida, doing his gig with the snake and the makeup and the whole mystic thing. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is the scariest man on the planet. And then Home Team Sports in Maryland, it picked up on my cable network, and I got to see the Florida Championship Wrestling. And from there I was like, oh my God, this Sullivan guy, whoa. And it just never stopped. And it's just funny that Kevin is so underrated. Could you tell everybody a little bit about Kevin Sullivan and just what you think his place should be in pro wrestling history?
Yeah, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And if you read the book, he taught me so much, including life lessons that I live by today and I taught my kids. But he's so smart in a lot of different ways, not just the wrestling business. And he was the creative behind a lot of what you saw. Eric made the signings. Kevin certainly didn't sign Hall and Nash or Lex Luger, but Kevin was the guy who took the ball and ran with it. And really, without Kevin Sullivan, I don't think you'd see a heel Hulk Hogan in a million years. And so yeah, he's just. I remember growing up in championship wrestling from Florida and watching the Devil, as they called it, and I don't know if you're allowed to say that these days, but I just did, I guess. But yeah, and then there's a very underrated angle that most people haven't seen. It was at the very, very end of Championship Wrestling from Florida before it went out of business, where he started coming out of the fog. And it was one of the most entertaining things I think I've ever seen in professional wrestling. And Kevin forgot about it. And I found one interview and I sent it to him. This is years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And it was the finish was he was supposed to team with Dusty Rhodes, but that didn't work out. And he ended up teaming with Blackjack Mulligan. So Blackjack took that spot. But against Dory Funk Jr. and Humperdinck, and yeah, he was coming out of a fog. He literally, it was like didn't know where he was, and the promos were fantastic. Some of the most, if you could find it out there, and you like that kind of stuff, I would beg you to see it. And yeah, just a smart guy all around, so kind to me in so many different ways. It's almost like it was meant to be, because the first live wrestling show I ever went to, Kevin Sullivan was in the semi-main event. So, we've been on this journey together since I was 11 years old, and he's been a guide and a great friend, and love the guy. Yeah.
Go ahead, Reuben.
Hey, Reuben Bresler again. I had a question about, the way you got started. It sounds like a movie. It sounds like a TV script. Is the way that you got started in the wrestling industry just sort of kind of just walking in like you already belonged? Is that possible anymore in our world of, more security, more eyeballs, the democratization of social media? Or how would you recommend somebody get involved in the industry in the capacity that you got involved in becoming a manager or a ring announcer or somebody backstage?
It's a little different now, but how you carry yourself is still important. Like I said earlier, I talked to Joe Gomez, an old wrestling friend from WCW yesterday, and we were talking about that. He was talking about how, I don't know. I didn't consciously come up with my attitude, but I'm glad that I unconsciously thought of it, because if I'd have gone to that first WCW show, brought up enhancement talent, and went around shaking everybody's hand and taking pictures and asking for autographs, I'd have been gone. Never. This story, we wouldn't be talking right now. And something in me, and I don't know what it was like, act like you've been there before, even though I hadn't. Even though inside I'm marking out, holy crap, there's the Four Horsemen, holy crap, the Rock and Roll Express. But but I didn't. I kept it internal, and I still think that goes a long way. If you get an opportunity to go in a locker room and there's a hero or somebody that you grew up watching who's headlining the show, if you're new, hey, yeah, I didn't even introduce myself to those people for many different shows. I just stayed with my little group of guys that I brought up from Florida, and eventually they would come to me. I think Tracy Smothers was the first one, and said, after probably 2 months or something, coming up every week, he would say, what are you doing here? And he wasn't being mean. He was like, he was curious, and then eventually, the guys became friendlier, and I think they respected the fact that I wanted to have an in and love the business and wasn't, going around asking for autographs and stuff like that. Not to put myself over, but it was a different mindset. And, if you read in the book, eventually Junkyard Dog named me Walking Man, and people back, from that day, if I see them at a convention, they say, "Hey, Walking Man, how you doing?" So yeah, it's just if you act, just act like you've been there before. I know that the inner marking people want to be fawning and trust me, I was inside, but on the outside, I acted like I freaking didn't. I didn't care. Yeah. I was just here and I belong, like you said, and yeah, that's the lesson that you could still use.
My sister has a saying: "To be like a duck, calm on the surface but furiously paddling underneath." So keep that straight face, be a fan. You want to be a fan of the people that you work with. And the other thing that applies to you and applies to everything else is be so good they can't ignore you. So it's just great to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we thought about calling the book Stooge of the Year because when I first, went to WCW, as you can read about in the book, my thing was, what can I do to be helpful without being a mark, without geeking out? So Jim Ross would ask me to, hey, could you get the guys and bring them to the interview room, which was a different room than the dressing room. And so I'd run guys for him. And eventually, I walked around with a sign-in sheet that every wrestler had to sign in order to get paid, which ironically enough was the sheet that had like a whole bunch of little tiny writing typed words on top of it, which is why to this day nobody could sue WWE and say, you have to pay me more money for putting me on Peacock or the WWE Network, because it said, you had to sign it to get paid, and it basically said, we could use this for the rest of your life and our lives in eternity, and don't have to pay you a dime. But that was what you had to get you had to sign that to get paid, and and then I did a bunch of other stuff, and then I rang the bell, and eventually just stooging around. And there's a fine line between stooging and kissing ass, and I'm not saying I never crossed it, but I tried to stay on the other side of the kissing ass part.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. And I can imagine putting this book together, because like I said, I know there's another one that's going to be coming out. The memories coming back to you must have just been phenomenal when you're trying to figure out what you're going to be putting in here and seeing all these papers and thinking back to everything that happened to you. I can't imagine what that must have been like compiling all this.
Well, it was therapeutic. Like I said, I was in therapy. I've been in therapy for the last 6-8 months. It was easy for me. I just basically, me and Guy would talk about an hour and a half a day, and he'd ask me questions. He'd tape the conversation. He'd ask me questions, and I'd answer them, and tell my stories and stuff like that. And then it's funny. I like to tell people I didn't didn't see what he had written of my story until late in the game, and he decided we needed to go through each chapter and take out things I wasn't comfortable with, or change things that weren't factual that he might have gotten wrong. But he sent me every night. He sent me a chapter, and I remember reading chapter 3, and I looked at my wife sitting on the other side of the couch in her spot, and I said, "This is my story, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I can't wait for chapter 4." So he did an incredible job. He's incredibly talented, incredibly smart, and it's just a continued blessing that I've somehow gotten that I don't even know that I deserve in the wrestling business. That I had 30 years to live my dream, and now I get Guy Evans to write my books, and I'm incredibly lucky and grateful.
Yeah, and it is going to be, I think everybody that's a wrestling fan needs to check this out. It is something special, and like I said, very unique perspective for everybody to take a look at. And Dave, I know you got to get rolling, but it is just an honor for me to get to talk to you. I've always respected guys, the ring announcers, and guys like Howard Finkel and so on, that the childhood heroes for me, guys like you guys that did what you did. And man, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but like I said, I know you got time limitation. But the book is Sitting Ringside by David Penzer with Guy Evans. You can go to davidpenzerbook.com and pick this thing up and check it out. And you pro wrestling fans, go get a copy of it right now. And you're going to hear a million stories and see some things that you're not going to see in any other book. And you will be glad you did. And David, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it.
Oh, I had a great time. This quote unquote legend has to go do an open house, which real estate business will keep you humble. So head there and sit there and wait for people to hopefully show up, and so I could show them around. And you got to keep on rolling. One book doesn't define your life. You got to keep on recreating yourself. So, but yeah, anybody who would read the book, if you could leave a review on Amazon. It's been an incredibly humbling and experience. And Jericho, I have talked to Jericho last week, and he loved the book. And Charles Robinson loved the book, and there's Cody Diener. There's just been so many people that have been along on my journey that have read it and really liked it. So that means a lot. It means a lot that the fans love it, and I just want to thank them, everybody who's been a part of this journey, from inside the gate around the ring to outside the gate around the ring. I couldn't have done this on my own, and I appreciate you, Mark, and having me on, and Reuben as well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to do this again sometime, David, because I'd love to talk more. This is like I said, sure. I could do this all day. So
yeah, there's a lot more that we could certainly chat about. Like I said, got to go do an open house. So if you're in Florida and you want to come say hello, I'm in Raintree Village.
There you go. Or hop online, look him up. Go buy a house here in Vegas.
That's right.
If you want to move, go to Florida. Look up David Penzer.
There you go.
Dave, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the Mark Hoke Show. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Yes, sir. Definitely. We'll do it again.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot. There you go, everybody. David Penzer. How about that?
Amazing.
I mean,
it's like going to a museum.
And the cool thing about being in the position that a guy like him is in is, he didn't have to worry so much about, I've got to obviously there were times where he had to perform or be part of things and so on. But generally, he's not having to work out matches. He's not having to, worry about a massive contract, or am I going to lose a spot on the card or anything like that. For the most part, he got to sit back and enjoy the show. You know what I mean? Obviously he is asked to do things, and he did get involved in booking and some creative and stuff like that. But generally, he was an observer, and what a position that had to be in WCW,
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, we didn't even get to ask him about the episode.
Yeah.
But some other time we'll do that. But let's have a little fun and keep it positive for him for once.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he's getting bombarded with that kind of stuff all the time.
But also there's another book to come out, and
Yeah.
there's the second half of the story. So there's a lot more to uncover here.
Yeah, it's like I said, sometimes those stories are the most fascinating ones to delve into, to say the least. So I want to thank David for coming on the show. Once again, the book is Sitting Ringside. It's volume 1 by David Penzer with Guy Evans. And Guy was on part of that Who Killed WCW first episode. And of course, he's got a very extensive book about WCW as well. Guy is a very well-spoken dude and a great writer. So you might want to check that book, Nitro book, that he's got out, if you want to dig into that as well.